Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to our first official Add to Live. Add to Live, an extension of our blog, in Add Live, com. I'm your host, and we're so glad to have you here. Today, you have the to talk to Zach, the interactive media specialist, anything you want in the digital advertising. Digital advertising is kind of the new big thing, and a lot of people, myself, don't fully understand exactly what digital advertising do. So to clear up for us, we have Zach. Hey Zach, how are you?
Hey Erica, pretty well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's how all this is going to work. I'm going to start things off with a general question. Get the conversation, but you guys can ask questions on Twitter with #AddToLive. That's #the number 2 LIV, and I'll read your questions and ask them out. So let's get started. Okay. So Zach, for people who don't know, how would you define or describe a digital ad agency?
How would I describe a digital ad agency?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I like it. Not pulling any punches out of the gate. Yeah. So I think a digital ad agency is ideally a group of very smart folks that are rooted in both quantitative and qualitative practices. And today's digital agency is very skilled at making sure that brands and organizations enjoy the prominence that they have online, making sure that the recognition, the sales, that all that translates from their offline channels to the online space.
Okay. Interesting. Let's see. So, how would you? What goes into your daily job obligation, social media specialist?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, my perspective is a little bit different maybe than other folks in my agency. So, I'll start with mine. My day is generally split into two halves, and the first half of that is quantitative. So, I'll be dealing with analytics. I'll be dealing with spreadsheets, statistics, and then the other half of that is a little bit more qualitative. And so what I mean by that is writing content, making strategy, data visualization, and so the day is usually pretty evenly split between those two areas.
Okay.
Yeah, for other folks in our agency, so I work a lot in what's called SEO, or search engine optimization. There's some folks that work in pay-per-click advertising, which is the pay-to-play ads that you see on top of Google, and other areas as well. A lot of those folks may be a little bit more quantitative heavy, so they'll be working a lot more in spreadsheets, working with bidding on ads and campaign strategies, and then account managers will probably be a little bit more qualitative focused, so they'll be spending a lot of time communicating with clients, coordinating between team members, and finally there's design and development personnel, so folks that design and build awesome websites, and they'll generally be spending a lot of time in coding, writing code, debugging, and just making sure that the infrastructure of our client's web that it's running smoothly.
Okay. So I'm going to turn things over to the audience. Let's see if we've got any good questions. So Zach, have from Doty, where will Doty be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Excellent question. I like it. So that's the beautiful thing and the tricky thing about digital is that we've gone through a lot of disruption and a lot of innovation lately. So when you look at it, the locus of control for consumer behavior used to lie with manufacturers, retailers, corporations. Largely that has shifted over to the consumers. And so we see the rise of players like Facebook, Amazon, even Uber now, albeit a little bit controversial. But now consumers can behave on their own terms for the most part. So getting around to the trends, I think probably the first big thing is that mobile is reaching a tipping point. So previously, a lot of folks have iPhones, Androids, Windows phones, not so much Blackberries, but usage wasn't necessarily widespread. Now, this year in 2014, looking at the hard data of it, mobile is about to surpass half of all web traffic, roughly. And so there's a huge tipping point where folks are not only exploring the web on their own terms on the desktop, but a lot of us sleep next to our phone. A lot of us are, on a train, on a bus, or in the elevator, and we're checking the status of an order, we're seeing what our friends are up to, we're sharing a video, and so the proliferation of the mobile web is huge. Yeah, that's probably a big thing to look for, and I think that certainly manifested itself with recent developments for Google. And we can, if folks have follow-up questions, we can definitely elaborate on that, but that might start to get into some of the technical details. So.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's definitely something huge.
Let's see. What Perso Natalie, we have, what decision catapulted your career?
Very good question. So my relationship with digital marketing goes back quite a ways. I've been out of undergrad and working this whole time with Porthia for almost 3 years now. And my relationship with digital goes back a bit further. So after I finished high school, I knew that I was interested in communications and in marketing. At first, it was kind of like, man, what can I do that doesn't involve math? Because whenever you're younger, whenever you're younger, your decision paths aren't so clear. And so I was thinking, that sounds like really interesting. And so before I went up to college, I did an internship with a TV station in my hometown of Waco. And it was really fun, actually. There was a lot going on. There were definitely some shenanigans. But at the end of the internship, I found that I wasn't being very fulfilled. And what I mean by that is that once you've learned how to operate a camera, once you've learned how to do editing software, from my personal perspective and what I wanted to pursue, that just wasn't quite enough. And so the next summer, after my freshman year, I interned with actually an agency here in Houston, and made a lot of great friends, good contacts. One that is actually the VP of Operations here at Porthia, and from that point on, that was really my first exposure to digital marketing, and haven't looked back since. So that's probably the big catapult.
Okay, I've got another from With Love. What is your background and what sparks your interest in digital media? Oh, you kind of just covered that a little.
I can elaborate a little bit on that, because we kind of skipped a little bit from beginning college to present day. Something that was interesting and I think is really promising for students, folks looking to get into the industry, get their foot in the door. A lot of the initial digital stuff in college I actually taught myself. So, for instance, I learned HTML coding from a book, and built some websites for friends and family. Took a Google Analytics certification course on my own in college. So that's some background that I hope a lot of folks find encouragement in, that the barriers to entry are actually pretty low. Now, the path to excellence can be a little bit more steep, but in terms of getting your foot in the door, there's so much open source information about digital marketing, and fortunately, a lot of it's from really great sources and generous people that just want to pay it forward. So there's huge opportunity.
That's actually really impressive that you taught yourself HTML. That's I couldn't.
Well, it was definitely trial and error to start with.
Yeah.
So
But
sometimes a little more error than trial in the first days, but.
Yeah. But it's impressive that you tried to tackle that, because I mean, it takes a lot of initiative, self-motivation to go for that. So good for you. I have a question for you. I know that Forthia is, I guess you could say, particular about who y'all work with. And so I was wondering, why is that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So yes, we are pretty selective about who we work with, and we do that for a number of reasons. Probably the most important of those reasons is that we're not a commodity, and we're not necessarily just a vendor. So that to say, we are a digital partner with our clients, and so a lot of our relationships are very long-standing, and sometimes we may start on a small basis with some clients, but more often than not, we expand the scope of our work just because we see the potential for the client, and our team just really enjoys delving into new stuff, and because we're a pretty close-knit team here, we really do care about our clients. So, for example, probably one of the best ones is we've got a company in the real estate business that we've been working with for about a year now. So they're one of our newer clients. But we just had a monthly meeting with them a couple weeks ago and got really exciting news that they were starting in Houston, but now their business has grown to such a degree that they can expand to Dallas and San Antonio, and our partnership has helped facilitate that, and that's absolutely exciting for us.
Yeah.
We love to hear stuff like that, and so we are selective because we want to not only give our team the best opportunity, but we want to make sure that it's a really, really good fit with the client as well and their goals. So.
Okay.
Is that whenever we're pulling in the same direction with the client, that's the best way forward.
So just to follow up, is that common for digital ads, or is that just like a special thing for y'all?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it really depends on a company-to-company basis. There are definitely some good shops around that focus a little bit more on quantity of clients, and for the business model they have, and for the the team and culture they have, it's a good fit for them. This is just based on our culture, and we have a really strong drive for quality and for pushing the envelope, and because we want those things, we seek out clients that want the same thing.
Okay.
We may be a little bit uncommon, but frankly, we're good with being different. If you have the same company, same culture, how can you expect anything but the same results as everybody else?
Right. I agree with that one. I think standing out is the best. Going back to coding, from personal Natalie, what are some great books or websites to learn basic coding?
Excellent question. Let me pull up one. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend books as much anymore because technology has progressed a lot lately.
Right.
You can do it online, and a lot of them have similar names, so I want to make sure I give out the right name. Code Academy. Code Academy is a good one that you can start for free, and if I remember correctly, you can learn online, so it has just an interactive console on the website. It's a great place to start.
Okay. Ashley McCool, EHO. How do we stay up to date with SEO or Google search?
Yeah, great question. And let me follow up real quick to to the code question, if you go to code.org, that's a really great nonprofit that I think is a little bit bigger of an umbrella for folks that are interested in it. And also, to add on that, I wouldn't say that necessarily everybody should learn to code. And I say that because sometimes it's more important just to understand the principles and be able to manage it, necessarily than be able to write all the code yourself sometimes, if that makes sense. So sometimes, like a creative director or an account manager doesn't necessarily need to know the intricacies of, how is this element styled, how does this function work, but they need to understand the principles of it so that when they work with somebody that does do it regularly, or if they're talking to a client, that they can explain it effectively and make sure that things get done.
So just have some general knowledge of coding.
Yes. Unless you're looking specifically to get into a coding area, you just have to decide for yourself if it's something you enjoy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm sorry, I interrupted that question.
No, it's fine. So did you want me to repeat that question again?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So how do we stay up to? Oh, sorry. Oh no, that was right. How do we stay up to date on SEO or Google search?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Very good question. I'm glad you all asked it. So there are a number of publications that would be very helpful. I think the first thing, not everybody's an expert in SEO, and that's okay. I would recommend looking up the Moz Beginner's Guide to SEO as a starting point. Moz is a software tool based out of the Northwest, and they have just an excellent beginner's guide that explains the principles, the underlying concepts and fundamentals of search engines and SEO. So that would probably be a good place to start. I would say a couple of trade publications if you're looking to stay up to date and get late-breaking news. Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal are two very excellent publications that regularly have news, updates about search engines themselves, products, movement by big players in the industry. So they're very handy resources.
Okay. So we have with love from Aaron, if you were not in digital media, what would be your ideal career?
I've thought about that one before. Oh, goodness. Well, I don't know that I'd choose a different career because I really enjoy what I'm doing. I don't know. I do enjoy music, so maybe something with that. But I would definitely, if I had my way, I'd love to stay in the area that I'm in.
Yeah, I understand that. Because since I've grown up, I've always known that I wanted to be a writer, so I couldn't really imagine doing anything that was outside of that. So I get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. Excuse me for 1 second. We got the cleaners coming through our office. Let me close the doors. Vacuuming outside. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay.
Let's see. We have from Doty, what do you think has changed the most in the last year or two in digital media?
Y'all have a lot of good questions. Keep them coming. So I think probably a starting point is just the sheer amount of data that's being produced. So what I mean is that the focus of a lot of advertising and marketing used to be outside digital, and that's because that's where people spend their time. They spend it on radio, television, outdoor. That's what consumer behavior dictated. And obviously the shift has definitely occurred, and I think some people don't necessarily realize just how much data is being created just from our online existences every day. I think the last figure I saw was something from a couple years ago that it's 2.5 exabytes of data per day, and that, I know that sounds like Greek, and let me break it down into more concrete terms. That there's basically enough data for 1 trillion web pages being generated every day.
Wow.
And it's not necessarily in web page format. A lot of that is unstructured data, so it's metadata or things generated from our social profile activities and servers, from our Google behavior, but nevertheless, the data is there. And there's a lot of value in it. There's also a degree of risk as well. You know, so we mentioned Uber earlier. There's a lot of questions rising up because we're in uncharted territory. Really, is that, you know, who owns the data? You know, what are the boundaries of businesses and consumers, because they're rapidly blurring with social economy. So I think some of those questions about data management, about the lines between traditional businesses, traditional consumers, I think the blurring of those lines, and specifically how we're going to work forward from them, is going to be really interesting.
All right. Well, we have another one from With Love from Aaron. What are the biggest differences that you see in B2B versus B2C business?
So I think I'm starting to pull the questions up here as well. Helps to have notes. I think the most immediate and most noticeable difference between B2B and B2C marketing, and I'm assuming Aaron's question is how we market and our perspective as an agency. And so she wants to follow up. Please do that. And clarify. So anyway, the trends and seasonality are much different. So consumer demand in terms of like interest, activity, purchasing behavior, it's at an all-time high right now. And why is that? Because we've got Black Friday, we've got holiday shopping, and then it's going to drop down for a little bit. So there are extreme points of seasonality that reflect consumer behavior. In B2B environments, that can be a little bit different. So a lot of our B2B clients right now are actually quite quiet. So a lot of folks don't necessarily have a lot going on. Folks are taking off for the holidays. Businesses have already secured their 2015 budgets for the most part. So it's a lot quieter on that front. And so we actually see a lot more activity in the springtime and summer when folks are executing their operations or capital expenditure plans, earlier in the year, and then it just depends on where their fiscal year falls, frankly, for their cycle. So that's probably the biggest immediate difference, is that if you're working on a B2C account right now, things are crazy. If you're working on a B2B client at this time of year, coming up on Christmas, it's not so busy.
Yeah, that's to be expected. See. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Pull mine up. So since digital agencies, they're not new necessarily anymore, but they're still somewhat new. Like things are constantly changing. So with that being said, what would you say is the most valuable skill a potential employee could have for a digital agency?
Yeah, excellent question. So I would probably not say that there's a particular, not a particular coding language or a particular, a particular skill set in particular. I would say the ability to solve problems, adapt, and think on your feet are probably the most important thing. So in regards to SEO, the fundamentals actually have not changed for quite some time. Now, there are different things, different tactics around the perimeter that aren't necessarily core that have changed a lot. So if you follow publications like Search Engine Land, you'll see a lot of different updates about guest blog posts, links, duplicate content, things like that. If you follow those essentials, that hasn't changed. But mediums are going to come and go, and we've seen a lot of change already. And I think having more of those high-level strategy skills, I think that's a lot more important, because who knows what coding language we'll be using in 5 years. it may be something different, and who's to say? It's becoming a lot more difficult to predict where we're headed, just because we're in the new territory. So being able to adapt and be productive, be useful, and solve somebody's pain in a particular situation, that's probably the most important thing you can do.
Okay. Digital is so exciting in that way, that it's always never not really new, I guess, because it's always constantly changing. There's always new to discover.
Yeah, there are a lot of funny trends. Like you mentioned, digital is still fairly young, and you can verify that by just taking a sample of Fortune 500 company websites.
Yeah.
And if you look at Fortune 500 companies, the majority of them do not have mobile-friendly websites. So that's kind of an interesting indicator there, a litmus test that there's still a long range at the tail. If we're looking at an adoption curve, there's still a lot ahead. So it's very intriguing.
Okay, we got with love from Aaron. Do you have a favorite to deal with for video?
I don't think so, actually. I enjoy all of them pretty equally, and I enjoy the fact that I get to work between different industries. It mixes it up and keeps you in different modes of thinking. So I like being able to work on like a B2B business in the morning that might deal with construction materials, something like that, and then be able to shift gears later in the day and look at a B2C company that might have packaged goods or something like that. It's actually quite fun to have the variety, and then you also get to know a pretty wide range of verticals, as opposed to just working on one all the time. It's good for the perspective.
Cool. Let's see if we have any more questions. No, I think I've read all those, and I don't have any more for you, so I guess we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us. We learned a lot today. Really appreciate it, so thank you.
Absolutely, yeah, and if the conversation doesn't have to stop here, so if anybody has questions watching this video later, you mentioned the hashtag #AddToLive, so I'm sure you can follow that. Tweet at me at ZLDoty, or tweet at Porthia, or contact us on our website, and we've always got folks here that would love to talk. We always have folks that are speaking at conferences or different things in the community, so if y'all have questions, we'd love to talk. Love to help y'all out however we can. So.
Thanks. We really appreciate it, and we'll be in touch for sure.
All right. Sounds good.
Have a nice night.